safety and gun control. We're joined now by KTVU political analyst Brian Sobel. And Brian, finding bipartisan legislative solutions isn't easy, hasn't been up until this point. But when you have so many people, especially young people, calling for change, do you think it will be easier now for something to happen on gun control?
Well, you still have the battle between these giants, the NRA and other gun advocates, and these politicians who have to go home and be voted back into office. And the NRA has been very effective over many years, threatening that people who support gun bans and that sort of thing, assault rifle bans, will be voted out of office. And that's a problem.
Well, and that's the thing I wanted to get to is that the argument turns into you're taking away my guns.
Right.
And I haven't heard anyone say, let's get every gun in America off the streets. No one has said that. It's just, let's have a little more regulation. Let's make sure they can pass a background check. They're mentally fit to have a gun. Certain kinds of weapons that usually are used for the battlefield. But anytime somebody tries to have a conversation like that, they get accused of trying to take away everyone's guns.
Well, I had a conversation years ago with one of the top people at the NRA, and he said, Brian, you have to understand this, that every law that occurs, that is passed, is the slippery slope. And so one more law on top of one more law means at some point everything will be banned. If you come at it from that standpoint, you have fear. On the other hand, I don't think most people mind or worry about what we would call sporterized weapons. Somebody goes out to deer hunt or something.
Right.
But when you're talking about weapons that have clips with multiple bullets and you know, the AR-15 and that kind of weapon, they do such mass damage that they aren't really a civilian weapon in many respects. They're a quasi-military or a military weapon.
But Brian, when going back to your first argument, which is that if politicians do in fact vote for some gun control measures, that they could not be elected the next year. There could be political fallout. Does that then prove that there are people out there who don't support enacting stricter gun control measures?
Well, I think in politics, and we talk about this all the time, it comes down to the practical reality. If they think their job is in danger, they're either going to try to modify a law or they're going to vote against it on some pretense. And that's been the history of it. And the NRA, and there are a lot of powerful interest groups in the United States, but on the gun issue, the NRA is very, very powerful, and they vote.
Yeah. Dianne Feinstein today came out with another call for the assault weapons ban, which was in effect for 10 years, and she came out with a bunch of numbers showing just how effective it was, that there were a lot fewer gun deaths during that time period. But what happened in Florida was interesting. They did pass some gun legislation there. They're a Republican majority legislature there. The governor signed it. They raised the age. The NRA fought it tooth and nail. They're still against it, but it passed. So I guess it shows something could be done.
Something can be done, and what you have to like about people, young people particularly, getting out and having an opinion about this is that it can change. What happens is politicians are actually left alone in these arguments a lot of times. The only people arguing are the proponents for not passing legislation, and it's very, very intense. I've personally felt it in past years. They target people, and they make it very rough on you to talk about controlling guns, and because of that, nobody's standing up on the other side oftentimes.
Yeah, and we are out of time, but I wanted to point out, Brian, that we have made multiple efforts to get somebody from the NRA, the gun lobby, anyone who is big on the Second Amendment to come in and be a part of this discussion, and we've struck out across the board. So I'm going to say right now, if there's anybody who's watching this and you are a gun supporter, you support the NRA, we would be happy to have you come on and talk about that. We've had a lot of trouble trying to find a pro-gun person to come on to this program. Thank you, Brian.
Yep,
Thanks,
you're
Brian.
very welcome.